I'm Teri, and this is Tea with Teri, where we talk about thoughts, emotions, and actions. So today I want to talk about an emotion, and it is not actually an emotion. So here's what I mean. We're going to talk about hope. And hope is not an emotion, but the opposite of hope, hopelessness and despair are emotions. So I want us to talk today about the ways that we can cultivate and practice more hope and hopefulness in our lives in order to ward off hopelessness and despair. So, from the work of Brene Brown, which is powerful, and Atlas of the Heart, she defines hope is a function of struggle. We develop hope not during the easy times, but through adversity and discomfort. Hope is learned, and that's actually good, right? We can learn hope at any age. I'm going to talk in a moment about how children learn to be hopeful, but if you didn't receive that as a child growing up, it's not too late. Having a growth mindset and practicing these skills will serve you well. So we require relationships characterized by boundaries, consistency, and support in order to develop that hope as a child. So again, while hope is not an emotion, hopelessness and despair are emotions. So hopelessness arises out of a combination of negative life events and negative thought patterns. So if we think about it, something bad is happening, and then the something bad is creating lots of negative thoughts. And we've talked before in Tea with Teri about how we can manage some of these thoughts and some of these practices, such as gratitude and changing our perspective and practicing joy. So hope is right in there with that. And so the other thing that happens is we can fall into self-blame. And then with hopelessness and despair, it's really that we start to believe from the inside out that our circumstances cannot change and will not change. And that's a place that cultivating hope can really help us get out of that cycle of hopelessness and despair. So we cultivate hope through these few things: commitment to a new way of thinking about what we want to achieve and why. And so I love this because for me, when I stopped drinking, I started thinking about there was so much hope in the future. And I was able to start exploring, what did I want to focus on? What did I want my future to look like? And that beautiful why. What was my passion, purpose, curiosity, opportunity? I hear this from my clients a lot, that when we first start working together, they may have been in a place of hopelessness or despair, feeling like they were in a cycle of drinking and over drinking, and they weren't sure they could really untangle it. And then as we start working together, they often will say to me, and it's such a beautiful statement, but they'll say, for the first time in a long time, I have hope. So the commitment to new ways of thinking about what we want to achieve and why. And then we get to reality check our goals and pathways. And for me, this looks like reminding myself and my clients to lead with intention versus goal setting. And so that reality means that it's just not black and white. There's so much room to explore beyond one goal. And then we also get to take the shame out of starting over. And this is so powerful. We're starting to see more acceptance of this in our culture around failing forward, around, there's no such thing as a mistake. It's all information. In the work of Annie Grace and the training that I received as an alcohol freedom coach, we talk about data points versus falling off the wagon or going back to day one. And it's really powerful to just explore a new way of thinking about, the shame that we sometimes get. And I also like to say that we're not starting over. We're starting from where we are, which is with new information, new tools, new perspective. So changing our perspective is kind of that next way to cultivate hope. This experience may not be personal. Sometimes we think that it's all on us, and that can be a place of shame and blame as well. So imagine that what it would look like or feel like if the circumstances were not personal. Does that bring you more hope? and then doing the work. So we, come to this place in life where we're working on ourselves or we're exploring new concepts. And sometimes the work feels heavy. But this work of cultivating and practicing hope, while it can be messy, what it does is it builds resilience. So it's far less messy than falling into hopelessness and despair. So we get to practice new ways of showing up so that we don't fall automatically into that place of hopelessness or despair. So doing the work is really a big part of resilience. And we can practice resilience. We can practice getting back up. We can practice self-talk. We can practice encouragement. We can surround ourselves with people who do encourage us. And then finally, the last tip I'll give you about cultivating hope is to take a future approach. When things feel heavy, ask yourself, will this be a big deal in 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 years? And that can often take the pressure out of having to make a change immediately, or understanding that sometimes this will take time. When it comes to changing our relationship with alcohol, which is a lot of the work that I do, it's so interesting how many of us expect to change our relationship. We feel a little bit of hope, and then we start to beat ourselves up because the change didn't happen in the next 5 months. And the reality is we have to understand that working on ourselves and cultivating hope is a lifelong process, and it's going to serve us well. And it can be a beautiful, powerful, and even fun way to show up for your own life. So I hope, pun intended, that this tea for Teri might be helpful for you as you move through life. And I'll be back next week with another thought, emotion, or action for you to consider.